After the release of the most recent Yakuza games, those being Kiwami 3 and Dark Ties, a lot of speculation has been jump-started surrounding the series' future. The aforementioned entries have gone to great lengths to undo some established franchise continuity, in what is likely an attempt to give Yakuza more stories to tell with its best-known characters. But the ways in which this was done were polarizing in every sense of the word. To avoid further keeping you in the dark regarding why I've chosen to speak on the prospect of a Kiwami 4 now, of all days, here is the context. RGG holds a semi-frequent livestream series called Ryusta TV on their official channel. These streams usually include merchandise promos for Japan, but on occasion, they will also have some cool behind-the-scenes footage and/or RGG Summit announcements. The stream that occurred on June 25th featured a shot that looks like a reimagining of a particular scene from Yakuza 4 featuring Daigo at the Tojo HQ, leading to speculation that a Kiwami 4 would inevitably reach us. To say that this should be taken with a grain of salt would be the equivalent of saying you shouldn't jump into lava. And no, I do not find this one image to be the concrete confirmation that the remake is coming. No less than that one Dragon Engine shot of Yakuza 3 Haruka would have done for Kiwami 3, once we saw this scene in Infinite Wealth. Horribly structured sentence aside, I wish to instead use this image as a jumping off point to discuss the nature of a Kiwami 4 in general, because the prospect of it is infinitely less clear than it would have been pre-Kiwami 3's release. The reasons for that are fairly evident, even when just looking at the latest remake on a surface level. More cut content than in any other remake, combat being dumbed down to levels never before seen, even though this franchise is aimed at more casual players by the admission of its creators, and there's a variety of story rewrites that plainly make the jump from Kiwami 3 into OG Yakuza 4 feel utterly nonsensical for anyone paying close attention. While the first 2 points are fairly self-explanatory by now, I feel this last one requires a bit more elaboration. So here is past me ranting over how the change of Hamazaki's behavior between OG3 and the remake's conclusion messes with the series' continuity. Also, yes, spoilers are inbound, so for the love of God, flee while you can. If Hamazaki doesn't stab Kiryu at the end of Yakuza 3, this means that Hamazaki doesn't end up in prison, which means no one tells Saejima about the Sasai family's downfall, which means no one helps him break out of prison. Hamazaki doesn't wash up on shore at Kiryu's orphanage, meaning that he doesn't tell him about the connection between the police and the 10 billion yen. Which also means that Haruka doesn't have this cool moment of not trusting Hamazaki, which would have led to his redemption arc later.
No.
Which, at this point, basically half of the protagonists in Yakuza 4 have no direct reason to partake in the story. And I get, you can theoretically write your way around this, but right now, the story going from K3 to the rest of the franchise doesn't make sense. And this is just one thing that I brought up.
Yeah.
Are we all caught up now? Lovely, now let's get back on topic. The amount of deviations present, coupled with select comments made by Yokoyama-san, led to the discussion of whether a Kiwami 4 would exist, though not in the sense of questioning whether there would be a continuation of the alternate story route in general. The theory instead revolved around a K4 not even having the Kiwami label, as it wouldn't fit the moniker that was now endangered when compared to the first 2 mainline remakes and even Ichin's Western debut via the Unreal Engine version. K3 kind of put a wrench in that for some, meaning that its follow-up could either be rebranded as Yakuza insert flash word here 4, or the team could outright abandon the remakes altogether, due to the pushback towards K3's rewrites, or maybe the eventual commercial success of STH putting it as a secondary concern, or both. Regardless, the success of Yakuza is just too great to stop releasing new games at present time. And despite the division of opinions surrounding the budget entries now, the numbers for Gaiden and Pirate Yakuza at the very least indicate that they were successful releases. The jury is still out for Kiwami 3, but given how overworked the team was between that project, Dark Ties, Stranger, and Virtua Fighter, I doubt we'd see a dip comparable to it with a potential Kiwami 4. But here's the thing. Despite the meme factor that Yakuza 4 has in the community, its perceived shortcomings aren't ones that a remake could fix. With Yakuza 3, as much as I disagree with the notion that the combat needed substantial improvements, at least there was a demand for some fine-tuning from the casual audience, giving the devs some pointers to try and expand on the OG systems. Yakuza 4, though, at least from my experience, has received praise for its combat even from those parts of the community, so the only potential embellishments that come to mind on a fundamental level would either be the inclusion of secondary styles for each character, or the addition of juggling, the latter of which would be both redundant and reductive, looking at the wallbound potential and infinites present in OG Yakuza 4. And it would also likely be in opposition to the latest design choices, where RGG has consciously been stepping further and further away from the more juggle-oriented exhibitions in either LJ, or depending on your perspective, Gaiden. As for the secondary styles premise, it would be one thing if this were a campaign with a single protagonist, but we have 4 of them to work with and a limited budget to boot. While they could go the route of bringing back Ryukyu style for Kiryu, in theory, they'd still need to make 3 brand new styles to accompany Akiyama, Saejima, and Tanimura, unless they outright dump the idea in favor of using singular, refined styles for each character, which I'd honestly be really curious to see, hopefully being done with more focus than was exhibited with the latest iteration of the Dragon style, which felt all over the place to me by the end. As for the story, this is where we veer into the territory of how much RGG could change to accommodate the deviations from the latest remake, and any future plans that they may have for the series. While the general consensus towards 4's story is that it's one of the weakest of the series, the brunt of that boils down to the distaste for the rubber bullet plot twist. I still maintain that the issue with this twist was its overuse, rather than its sheer existence. Cause divorced from it, the individual arcs for Akiyama, Saejima, and Tanimura are genuinely pretty well made. This game can also pride itself on being structured vastly better than some other multi-protag stories in the series, like Yakuza 5 and Infinite Wealth, as the converging of paths is natural feeling in Yakuza 4, due to the leads having already interacted with one another before a new protag's part of the story would even begin, alongside all the other positives that I brought up in some of my older videos. This doesn't excuse the Chain of Betrayals chapter though, that's a mess that no amount of rewrites could fix. And a similar thing extends to most of the villains in the game. The only net positive addition that comes to mind would be a further elaboration on Akiyama's story with Arai, but that's about it. Most of the opposition in this game is designed to be one note. Looking at Ihara, Midorikawa, Mishima, Saito, Shibata, the list goes on. The few characters that have some nuance to them have the perfect amount of it to service the story that 4 is trying to tell though, as despite the elaborate multi-protag setup, this is an inherently simple story, just one that perhaps has one too many characters. Granted, this is a series defined by ambition, so trying to elevate the safe, if underwhelming, nature of the original story to some could feel like a risk worth taking, though I'd honestly strongly disagree with that. The alterations present in K3 and the present ramifications of them should be confirmation enough that messing with pre-established continuity is still ill-advised. Ultimately though, I think the biggest reason why a remake of 4 wouldn't be as celebrated or outright desired as some of the older remakes boils down to the overall image of the original entry. Yakuza 3 had gravitas. You loved it, or you utterly despised it. Therefore, you'd feel comparably strongly towards the prospect of a remake. But 4, by comparison, is in a lot of ways a middle-of-the-road game. It doesn't have the dizzying highs of Yakuza 0 or Yakuza 5, nor the dizzying lows of Kiwami 2 and, well, Yakuza 5. The twist itself may be infamous, and future entries may outright redo this game's most notable arcs, but does that mean that a complete deviation is needed? I don't think so. Even with its current history, the community will still praise Akiyama to high earth. Saejima is evidently a fan-favorite character in Japan, so his debut is bound to play a substantial role in that adoration. And despite the reluctance to address Tanimura after this entry, aside from a single verbal jab from Amon in Yakuza 5 and a memoir in Infinite Wealth, 4 is a story that is most intrinsically tied to him as a character, to the point where he is the one to fight the final boss, rather than having it be relegated to Kiryu yet again. I'm not sure that a remake of this entry would find its audience, aside from longtime fans who are open-minded about whichever future project the team deems worthy of creating. Naturally, should such a game take form, I'd obviously play it, as I always do. And there are some positives that could arise from such a project. You can make the rooftop and underground exploration finally feel fun, as the iteration of it from the OG, while admirable for the time, feels like walking through mazes with see-through walls in the case of the rooftop sections, and just feels like a basic chore in the case of the sewer sections. The cast could get more elaborate side modes, compared to the more bare-bones gang activities for Kiryu and police scanner for Tanimura. Hell, they could actually make Fighter Maker and Hostess Maker finally enjoyable. And the idea of a Kamurocho in the rain being fully realized in the Dragon Engine would also be a dream, just like the sunset setting was in Infinite Wealth for me. If RGG decided to make this remake take a bold step in a different direction than before, giving it to the A-team to show the B-team the ropes again, it could be a turning point for a new budget project. I still maintain that Kiwami 1 was a substantial mechanical improvement over Yakuza 0, and that it could stand alongside the original game with its many qualities. So seeing a comparable return to form, at least on a mechanical level, would likely be a great way to undo some of K3's effects on the budget lineup's image. Oh yeah, and maybe this mythical remake would open the gates for future guidance for 3 of the 4 leads, now that a casual audience would be reacquainted with them through a new shiny release. But all we can do at present is revel in the what-ifs, which I hope will lead to quality feedback that the team could learn from should they be interested in testing the waters of some rough drafts in the creative process. So, in conclusion, will we get a reimagining or remake of Yakuza 4? Probably, though I doubt this image will be the omen to signify its coming. What impact will this release have on the series? Only time will tell. So while we're still here in a time before Stranger Than Heaven, Kiwami 4, or Like a Dragon 9 exist, share your personal commentary and visions of the future in the comments. Thank you for being here, and finding this video worthy of your attention for the day. So, until next time, take care of yourselves, and have a great day. Cheers!